From some big dude slapping the life out of another guy,
oh God!
to your favorite player hitting a killer jump shot.
Curry, way downtown, bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
There are an interesting assortment of sports that exist in the world. Some are a spectacle, some are a little bit weird, but all of these things tend to have one thing in common. They're competitive. Over the last 20 years of my life, I've been a huge fan of Super Smash Bros. Melee, yeah, the old one, and I think it's one of the coolest competitive games ever. But out of the millions of matches of Melee that have been played, whether it's 1v1, 2v2, or a free-for-all with your friends, only a small fraction of them will ever have their stories told. If you ask me, some of the greatest stories in Melee are just singular sets. Regardless of the era of Smash you may have started to play in, there exists a deep appreciation of how the game, its techniques, and its most fierce rivalries have evolved over the years. And in this 10-part documentary series, I'll be taking a deep dive into some of the sets that have been considered by many to be the greatest. These are Melee's greatest hits.
But the gods of Melee are looking down upon us mere mortals, and they are saying
Not
the
yet,
grand
Mango.
finals that we need to see for the fourth time. Am I getting ahead of myself?
I don't know.
It's 2017, and fans of competitive Melee would soon come to realize that the golden rivalry of Cloud9 and Team Solo Mid extended far beyond League of Legends. C9's Mango and TSM Leffen were about to sit down in San Jose, California to produce one of Melee's most poetic moments in the game's history. And it wasn't at EVO, it wasn't on the biggest stage of all time, hell, it wasn't even in Grand Finals. It was in losers' quarters of Genesis 4 for 5th place. It was when Mango and Leffen created art. It was a set that epitomized two players pushing each other to their absolute limit, one that showcased the pure adrenaline of the game, and one that is still remembered as one of the greatest Melee sets of all time. It was a display of competitive Melee that can only be described as poetry in motion. About 1 week after finals day of Genesis 4, on the other side of the world, tennis legends Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal will play a match in Melbourne Park for the 2017 Australian Open, considered one of the greatest matches in tennis history. Rivalries are an interesting thing. Packers-Bears, Ollie Frazier, Aaron Burr, Alexander Hamilton, these all have rich histories and a long-standing conflict which culminates into a really cool story, or Alexander Hamilton getting shot. But more often than not, we see these rivalries rooted in sport. The rivalry between Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal is considered to be one of the greatest in the history of tennis, like the whole sport. This rivalry has been a huge part of both players' careers. They've been known to play some of tennis's greatest matches of all time, particularly in their face-offs at Grand Slams.
We have something, and then they're like, that was great, but we do it again. That's a classic.
A Melee equivalent to a tennis Grand Slam would have come from the Genesis Tournament Series, and a Melee equivalent to one of the many Federers and Nadals in our niche little competitive gaming scene were Joseph Mango Marquez and William Leffen Gelta.
Sit next to Daddy, Leffen. Right next to Daddy.
Why you?
Why me?
Of all the commentators.
If you're in the know when it comes to the competitive Melee scene, many would first look to Cloud9's Mango and Alliance's Armada as the keystone rivalry between North America and Europe, as well as a topic of high debate over who was considered the greatest player of all time. These two would trade tournament wins and top rankings for years leading up to Armada's retirement in 2018. But residing in Sweden alongside Armada was Leffen, another professional player who spent a portion of his early career in Armada's shadow. Leffen was introduced to the Smash scene through Melee's successor Brawl, which he played online in 2009, but it wasn't until a year later in 2010 that he started attending tournaments for Melee. Mango's influence would show on the young Swede not only in Leffen's Neo tag, but also in his character selection, beginning his competitive Melee career as a Falco main with a Yoshi secondary. Within his first year of playing Melee, Leffen would place 9th at the Swedish national tournament Beast 2 and would firmly establish himself as the second best player in Sweden behind that illustrious Armada. This reputation would precede him through 2012, culminating into the moniker Godslayer by the time Apex 2015 rolled around, when Leffen became the first of only 2 players ever to defeat each of the 5 gods of Melee. Just after that Apex on March 9th, 2015, Leffen would be signed by Team Solo Mid as the organization's first Melee and fighting game player. But this signing came off the back of another organization bringing on a Melee player, Cloud9, and their signing of Mango, one of the aforementioned 5 gods of Melee, less than a year before that. The players might have not realized at the time, but this pair of signings catapulted Smash into a microcosm of one of the most long-standing esports rivalries, stemming from League of Legends. TSM and Cloud9 were the de facto Federer and Nadal in League of Legends. Multiple combined North American titles, Grand Finals matchups, and since around Season 3 of the North American League of Legends Championship Series, TSM and Cloud9 always contended for the top spot. These teams represented one of esports' most premier rivalries.
Now can they have the follow-up damage? A couple of stuns come in. They've got Bjergsen, and they shut him down with a 1600 damage crit.
Can they get double?
Low. Meteos, another knockup, trades his life, but it's done. Gets the GA. Double killing them all. Kills everybody. They've got 3. Impact goes down. An ace for TSM.
Melee's version started out pretty small. Mango won their first ever tournament encounter at Apex 2014, which resulted in one of the most historic 4-stocks the game had ever seen. Then took another set towards the end of the year at Big House 4, where he 4-stocked Leffen again.
You can't just 4-stock me, Mango!
Oh my
you
God.
You can't just 4-stock me, Mango!
Apparently, yes you can. Wow.
Leffen would take his first win on Mango at the European Major Beast 5, making Mango the second to last god defeated in Leffen's journey to becoming the Godslayer. From there, the two would spend some time trash-talking each other in the month leading up to Apex 2015, and after Leffen's famous 5-0 win over Chillin' Dude in the Salty Suite, Mango came on stage in pure WWE fashion to defend Chillin' and challenge Leffen to a $1,000 money match, one of the highest amounts bargained in a money match during that era if they met during the main tournament.
This man, okay, I went to his country, and he beat me, okay. But you come to my country, and you beat my man 5-0, if we play in bracket, we're gonna put 1,000 on it. 1,000.
Leffen completely bodied Mango here, now for 2 tournaments in a row. Mango entered back in 2015 with wins at I'm Not Yelling, Press Start, and BAM 7, with Leffen taking one last win at What the Fox, then clean sweeping him in 2016 with wins at Gommel 2016 and DreamHack Winter. But I don't think anyone could have been prepared for what was about to come at the start of 2017. That dichotomy of God and Godslayer provided Melee a sense of narrative going into what most consider to be one of Melee's most competitive years yet. But just 2 years after their first encounter at Apex, Genesis 4 would pave the way towards these players representing one of Melee's most iconic rivalries. A brutal back-and-forth set which culminated in not just one, but 2 of the greatest performances competitive Melee had ever known was about to go down. The 2017 Australian Open final was the first time Federer and Nadal had met in a major final since the 2011 French Open. Federer, returning from a 6-month hiatus from the sport due to a knee injury, came into this tournament seeded 17th, while Nadal was seeded 9th. Somewhat similarly, Mango was seeded underneath Leffen at G4, only 4th seed to 3rd though. Perhaps the biggest controversy of this event actually came from Hungrybox, who was reseeded from 2nd to 5th due to a finger injury he sustained prior to the tournament. This resulted in the 3 highest ranked players at the time, Armada, Hungrybox, and Mango, all being placed on the same side of bracket, meaning Mango was projected to fight HBox in a top 8 qualifier on the winner's side. Mango would qualify for top 8 on the winner's side with a 3-1 over HBox, while Leffen would fall to the loser's side after a 3-0 loss to Plup, the only other player to have ever beaten each of the 5 gods of Melee. Leffen eventually made it into top 8 on the loser's side by defeating Chudat, then Axe to move 1 round further into loser's quarters, and Mango's winner semis loss to Armada would pit him and Leffen against each other in their first matchup of 2017.
But here we go.
All right.
Mango, a different beast altogether.
Yeah, I think so.
Mango versus Leffen.
Game 1 begins on Battlefield, a fairly common starting stage in competitive Melee, and it goes about as you'd expect for 2 budding rivals. In the 2 minutes and 50 seconds it took to complete, these two spent almost all of it constantly running into each other. Mango leans into a few approaches with laser jump in, while Leffen balances the scales by mixing up dash back shield and shine out of shield. Several times in this game, and as was a theme across the entire set, we see a pattern of Mango striking first and Leffen looking to find the correct response. Mango and Leffen take the opening seconds of Game 1 to get more comfortable, seeing both players make slight flubs on their punishes. At 7:15, it looks like Mango will find the first stock of the match as he correctly follows a tech roll back with a dash attack, which should easily 1-2 into a down air spike, but Leffen plays great defense here, DIing the hit to stay alive for just a little bit longer. This minor victory is short-lived though, as Mango continues to lay on the pressure, and after another 10 seconds, Mango is awarded with the first stock. In response, Leffen presses on the gas a bit, approaching him with nairs and bears until an expertly utilized defensive option, take laser into turnaround up tilt, promotes an edge guard and finds him a reply stock. Toph, one of the commentators on this set, applauds Leffen's defensive prowess here, but can't even finish his thought in time before Mango creates a reversal off of Leffen overextending off stage. Scar, the other commentator on this set, can't complete his thought either, as Leffen strings together a wonderful sequence to even the stocks right back at 2 apiece. At 6:04, a unique situation occurs as Leffen looks to dash off the top platform. Getting hit by Mango's laser causes the Fox to turn around, which in turn puts Leffen into tumble and affords Mango a small punish. About 20 seconds later, and Mango finds another opportunity in what will surely be a stock lead, but his swagger gets the better of him. He goes for a moonwalk into a back air, which hits Leffen's recovery and pushes him too far away to return to stage, but he misses trading with the Firefox hitbox and fast falls after, causing Mango to sink too far below the ledge to return himself. A perhaps unintentional stock trade has left this first game at 1-1, and you couldn't have written a better script if you tried. At 5:19, a small mistake from Leffen turns into the end of Game 1. Leffen drops his shield for just a few frames as Mango drifts in with a dare that connects, which ultimately leads to a kill. The set count is now 1-0 in favor of Mango. As Scar mentions, the crowd is coming alive.
The crowd's coming alive, and this is where it matters. This is the loser's bracket, and these are two players who are definitely contenders to win the whole tournament.
In a best-of-5 set, players are not given the opportunity to ban a stage like they would be able to in the earlier best-of-3 stages of the tournament. Players also can't counterpick to a stage they've already won on, a Smash regulation perhaps aptly titled Dave's Stupid Rule, or more colloquially, the Stage Clause. This is unique from traditional fighters because different stages can affect character matchups due to a number of factors, like their size, blast zone locations, or number of platforms. With Game 2 on the horizon, we see Leffen counterpick to Final Destination. This is in some ways a double-edged sword. Here, Fox gains access to a chain grab which can often lead to death against Falco, but the lack of platforms on this stage means Falco can have a bit of an easier time completing pillar combos. We see the FD Falco combo tree in full effect within the first 5 seconds of the game, as Mango almost immediately finds a pillar combo into a shine dare that Leffen once again survives thanks to his DIN. But a few seconds later, Mango is once again awarded with the first stock. Leffen drops down from respawn and catches Mango's jump with an up air. He misses a second up air follow-up, but a missed tech from Mango allows Leffen to continue with his string, fully showcasing the benefits of Final Destination as Leffen evens it right back up. Without any time to breathe, Mango tacks on over 100%, but a quick 1-2 punch from Leffen completely stifles the momentum. A crucial mid-shorten from Leffen keeps the lead for now, and another grab shows off the potent chain grab Fox has on Space Animals. One textbook conversion with patent responses to Mango's answers cleanly takes another stock, and it looks like Game 2 has been blown wide open. Mango finds the high percent KO and is able to bring it to final stock with a slick conversion, but it's not enough. One final grab sequence with a small assist from Mango ties the set at 1 apiece. Now in Game 3, Mango gets to counterpick stage, and he goes to Pokemon Stadium. And to anyone who knows Mango from his tournament play, this may come off a little bit strange. Mango, even to this day, really likes to go to Yoshi's story. Ignoring any game logic and favoring one stage over another, this personal preference was made very clear at G4, since he went to Yoshi's every time he had the chance to counterpick stages up until this set with Leffen, going there once against Hungrybox and twice against Armada. Regardless though, Game 3 is on Stadium, which is still a very good stage for Space Animals and not an uncommon counterpick for Falco. The first 30 seconds is a complete scrap, with Mango coming out the other side with first blood for the third game in a row. And of course, Leffen responds quickly, taking a stock in reply as soon as he comes off the Angel platform. This back and forth seesaw between two evenly matched rivals would continue on in a perfectly written story. Leffen takes one, Mango answers back. Leffen takes another, Mango answers back. Final stock and a jump read from Leffen has the momentum firmly in his favor. Leffen only needs a single game win to take the set, advance in bracket, and eliminate Mango from the tournament. Mango needs to win the next 2 games in a row to stay alive. Mango lowers his head for a short moment as the gravity of the situation sets in. There is so much history riding on Mango winning this set. Armada, having defeated Mewtwo King in Winners Finals, was sitting pretty in Winners Side Grands of Genesis for the 4th time in a row. And poetically, Mango falling to losers set the stage for a 4-time repeat of what the Genesis series had become known for. Armada from winners, Mango from losers, and some of the most exciting Grand Finals sets the game had ever known. But Leffen was looking to put an end to that right here. You would think in the world of competitive sport that Mango would take a minute to breathe, reflect, and come into this do-or-die game with a cooler heads will prevail mentality. But no. He just takes a beat to change the music on his phone, reseat his headphones, and lock back into a runback on Pokemon Stadium. Yoshi's story will not be a part of this story. The momentum Leffen had built from the previous game win showed here, taking first blood for the first time in this set. Of course, Mango does find a stock in reply, and once again we're in a tug of war where neither player can seem to pull away. Leffen gets close to a perfect stock, taking only 10% on the way out, followed by Mango answering right back with a low percent kill. A pit fight on the stadium transformation has both competitors in a perpetual state of aggression. Leffen takes, a back throw has the crowd gasp, worried that the end has come for Mango, but he lives, and of course it's last stock. At 527, Leffen finds a huge knockdown, and a read on the tech in place looks like it's the end of the line, but Mango barely survives. Mango comes back down with a supremely brave laser from the corner and looks to gain back some ground, but now Leffen threads the needle. But here, Mango's aggression gets the better of him once again. Advancing towards the platform with a shine, a dicey jump towards Leffen has Mango take another hit to the face. Leffen could not have asked for a better position to win. Mango spent his double jump and he's out of options. Leffen can land, run up, and get an up smash in time to take the final stock. The crowd gasps once again. Even Scar acknowledges this is it. Mango's story ends here. There is no miracle that could save him. But the script had other plans. A desperation up B from Mango suspends the bird in midair, just out of reach of Leffen's sure bet up smash. Somehow, Mango hangs on. An overextension from Leffen results in Mango building up a quick 50%, and a laser on Leffen's recovery causes the Fox to side B to his death. If the crowd came alive after game 1, they were in a frenzy after this. Everyone watching, no matter your familiarity with Smash, knew it was over right then and there. They knew that there was no miracle in the world that could turn this situation around in as flashy a way as what we just saw. But Mango pulled a rabbit out of a hat, and it all comes down to this Game 5. As Mango and Leffen prepare for their 5th and final game to decide a winner, the 5th and final set in the match between Federer and Nadal was yet to occur. In both, tensions are at an all-time high. It's easy to see the emotion in the room. People in the crowd are hugging like they just won an election, and it's complete chaos. Everything that the Genesis series had built itself up to has seemingly become culminated into one final game, in a match that didn't even decide the winner of the tournament. If you were watching this live and you didn't think this was one of the greatest sets of all time already, you're definitely thinking it now. To close out this match, Leffen would counterpick to Dreamland 64, a perhaps antithetical stage selection to Mango's favorite Yoshi's story. Dreamland is the biggest legal stage in Melee's rule set, rewarding clean neutral openings and affording plenty of space to calculate a game plan, versus the sometimes chaotic nature of Yoshi's story, the smallest legal stage, which often refuses to give your opponent a moment to think. A battle of concepts would come to an end right here, and one way or another, history would be made. As the final game begins, the ports of both players have them spawn in close by, allowing Leffen to regain his fire with some wild aggression, taking the first 2 stocks of the game in the opening minute. The added space of Dreamland is paying dividends for Leffen. Mango just can't seem to find his footing as Leffen pulls further and further ahead. A few seconds later and Leffen looks to take a 3-stock lead, but Mango stems the bleeding for just a moment. Just a minute later, at 6:08, a back air finds its mark, and Mango evens the game right back with 2 unanswered. An up smash at 5:53 looks like it will bring Mango to last stock, but Leffen's stage pick bites him here, as the enormous blast zones of Dreamland allow Mango to hang on. Mango looks to capitalize on the opportunity, but a missed input results in Leffen surviving and reversing his way back into the lead. It's do or die. A Nair Shine from Leffen at 5:24 pushes Mango off stage, and an incredibly early up B spells disaster for Mango. Falco's up B, unlike Fox's, does not have a hitbox while it's charging, so Mango could have been shined out of this to lose the set on the spot. But Leffen scouts for something different, giving Mango one last chance. Mango finds a shine in center and follows it beautifully into a forward smash on top platform, a perfect conversion with just enough juice to kill Leffen off the top. As was tradition at this point, Mango strikes first and the crowd goes wild. Leffen counters and the crowd goes wild. At 5 minutes left in the game, they are exactly even. But in an uncanny turn of events, the roles reverse. Leffen becomes the aggressor and Mango waits. Mango holds shield for a full second and Leffen pulls the trigger on an attack, allowing Mango to get a shine out of shield. That final defensive counterplay from Mango, perhaps poetically, spells Leffen's demise. With a few more hits and one final laser to catch a low recovery angle, Mango falls down with Leffen and sends him into the blast zone first. Mango wins 3-2.
These two players took each other to their limit and beyond. Plot armor!
In 2006, David Foster Wallace published an essay titled Both Flesh and Not about the intimacy and spectacle of tennis revolving around Roger Federer's gameplay. In this essay, Wallace expertly pinpoints the faults in tennis as a spectator sport viewed from home rather than in person. In it, he states one thing it is not is televisable, at least not entirely. TV tennis has its advantages, but these advantages have disadvantages, and chief among them is a certain illusion of intimacy. Television slow-mo replays, its close-ups and graphics all so privilege viewers that we're not even aware of how much is lost in a broadcast. If you've ever attended a Melee tournament in person, you can see just how easily this applies to our game as well. Though the gameplay is crisp and exactly as intended while watching Melee from the comfort of one's home, there is a palpable energy of the in-person experience that is lost in translation. Throughout Melee's history, there are specific moments in time where the electricity of attending a competition in person could never, ever come close to resonating through a computer screen tuned into Twitch or YouTube. Such moments exist in our game's history, and while the feeling is generally fleeting, sometimes those emotions linger. One such set that defines these lingering emotions is this, showing perhaps some of the greatest Melee ever played in its time, in a set where both players transcended the game and elevated it into a fluid poetry in motion. In the end, it was Mango who emerged victorious, but there are no losers in a set like this. We all win because we've been privileged to witness Melee at what we perceive to be its highest form. Every dash dance, wave dash, and perfectly timed attack is a stroke of the artist's brush, bringing the canvas of the match to life. We got to see two players at the peak of their craft, so in tune with the game and with each other that they seemed to move as one. Leffen would ultimately exit Genesis 4 at 5th place, but the display he put on and the spark created with Mango left all spectators with one for the history books. The closing of this narrative at Genesis only led to the beginning of another, possibly larger one, the rivalry between Mango and Armada, in which the Genesis series historically centered itself around. The 3 prior events in the series featured a grand finals between these two players, with Armada coming from winners and Mango from losers. And at the end of it all, yeah, Mango and Armada played for the gold medal for a 4th time at the Genesis Tournament Series. A miracle did not save Mango in that Game 4 against Leffen. The plot did. Scar's exclamation of plot armor feels so right.
Leffen, you know why Leffen's not allowed? It's because he was trying to go against the script.
But regardless of any symbolism of two of Melee's champions coming face to face at what became known as their series, perhaps no match in the long history of our game encapsulates the poetry of Melee better than Mango vs. Leffen at Genesis 4. Whether you were a spectator in person or one at home, it's after sets like these that I reaffirm to myself that, yes, Melee is poetry. It's a narrative masterpiece, written and acted out by its players, constantly building and layering with more and more nuance on each pass-through. So are instant classics, sucking the viewer into pure cinema. One player begets the other, and neither example is a one-man show. They're two-person tangos, with both participants wanting nothing more than to dance. What these two matches have in common is their enduring trait of passion and creativity. Whether it's Mango or Federer, Leffen or Nadal, they trade blows, seek validation, and consistently improve in the face of adversity. Through these matches, their wills impose an unforgettable mark on their competitive canvases forever. Every stock in this set is a masterclass in itself. We see Mango's unparalleled creativity and Leffen's methodical precision. We see Mango's freestyle swagger and Leffen's calculated aggression. We see the heart of a champion in Mango refusing to give up even when all seems lost, and the iron will of a champion in Leffen, fighting for every inch. Two players, two styles, and one purpose, to prove beyond all doubt who is better. It's the culmination of years of practice, dedication, and competitive drive, all condensed into a fleeting 15 minutes that will be remembered for years to come. It still exists as one of the most watched individual sets in competitive Melee, and it shows us that matches like these are what keep us coming back, what fuels our passion for this game that refuses to die. These sets remind us of why we fell in love with the game in the first place. They inspire us to push our own limits, to reach new heights of skill and understanding. They prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Melee is a game of beauty, of creativity, and of passion, and a game that, even now, continues to surprise us. And it's exactly why, in my opinion, that this set, just a singular note in the symphony of Super Smash Bros. Melee, is one of Melee's greatest hits. Thank you so much for watching this documentary. I hope you enjoyed it, and much gratitude goes to all of my patrons who make videos like these possible, especially Avishua Stein, Bobby Wasabi, Eric is Cool, and NNG Esports. If you'd like to help support me in making more videos like these, please feel free to contribute through the link in the description. I'll have 9 or more, I don't know, segments in this series coming up after this one, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of them. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Who writes the script? Who else? Scar, hello.